So, the last thing, and a little thread that I kind of forgot to add to my last video that I wanted to get off my chest, in this last little tidbit of a rant after all of that I said in the previous video is just, which was, I don't buy into American exceptionalism. You can go and look back in the history. It, I I am not personally convinced that you can prove a point with might, and my moral compass has always sort of rejected might makes right. Seems to me fairly obvious that right makes right, you know, and that might has goddamn nothing to do with any of it, and that historically, unfortunately, it's been possible for armies that were in the wrong to actually win. We know this now, so might doesn't really have anything to do with being correct, taking the morally righteous stance. I mean, if that were the case, then when for the time period that Nazi Germany was in control of Poland and all those territories, then was doing the right thing because it managed to win, right? Doesn't really seem to follow. I don't buy into might makes right. So when you have all these videos going up here on YouTube and you have these guys basically screaming, you know, at patriots that are bothered by, the how do I put it? They are bothered by the Patriot Prayer Group and they shout something like Patriots Go Home at these groups, and these groups swarm them and they run off. And on social media, what will go up is that these people are all bark and no bite. Yeah, that's what you're gonna get. You know, guy gets away, they get it on camera, and they act like he's a weak, beta pussy. So I have the following to say. For years now, feminists have been arguing that there is a toxic form of masculinity that advocates and suggests that masculinity is tied up in being violent, that the violent domination of other people was what proved you were a man. For years now, we've had to deal with assholes who, when confronted with the idea of toxic masculinity, will suggest in the most inane and stupid way that fundamentally it is not, toxic masculinity, that feminists are just trying to turn men into women, and that on top of all that, that masculinity was good, and that, was pretty much the end of it. And these were all bad arguments because it was like what feminist actually said was not masculinity bad, femininity good. This was not the oversimplification, but it's easy to win a debate when you're up against your, only up against a straw man, right? Easy to rig the debate when you don't actually deal with the complexity of the argument at hand. The trouble is that there is such a thing as positive masculinity, but unfortunately, there's also such a thing as toxic masculinity. So, separating from masculinity what out of it, what is toxic, is what feminists were pushing for. You know, I don't want these bastards to be able to, straw man fallacy that. Deal with the actual arguments, you fucking cowards. Don't act like you've actually won anything otherwise. So, my position here is that the feminists have won the debate. There is, in fact, a form of toxic masculinity, and we can see it very visibly. And what am I trying to say is that I all I have to do is point you to a video where a guy basically says Patriots go home and then runs away, and they're calling him out as all bark no bite. Bam. If he had actually done the violent thing, they would be treating him like a real man.